Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you, everyone. Welcome to Career Fairs 101. You only get one chance to make a first impression, presented by Discovery and Dr. Michael Smith. My name is Lisa Paz, and I'm the Senior Director of Engagement and Advocacy for AISES. And I'm so excited to have Dr. Mike here with us to share this really great information with you all. We will be recording this. You can always go back and watch it or share it with others that you think would benefit from it. Also, all the participants right now are muted and cannot unmute themselves, but you can use the chat function. So if you do have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll make sure that Dr. Mike sees them, but we're going to keep everyone muted for right now. Thanks. All right. Okay, Dr. Mike, go ahead and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Lisa. Can everybody hear me? Wonderful, wonderful. We're so glad to have you with us today. My name is Dr. Michael Smith. Most folks know me as Dr. Mike. And I am an engineer by degree. I'm a chemical engineer with a bachelor's and a master's in chemical engineering from the University of Missouri-Rolla, which is now the Missouri University of Science and Technology. And I also have a doctor of engineering degree from Texas A&M University in chemical engineering and engineering management. And I'm also a STEM diversity champion. This is what I love to do. And I'm a 2013, I believe it is, Sequoia Fellow of AISES. So I'm glad to be a part of the family. I've been attending AISES conferences for several years. And again, my passion is really inspiring youth around STEM, STEM career paths, STEM academics, and really being the best person that you can be. And so today's conversation is going to be about career fairs and how you prepare yourself to give 110% and make your best first impression that you possibly can make, because of course, you only get one chance to make a first impression. And so what we're going to talk about today are what are career fairs and why they exist. We're going to talk a little bit about first impressions and your brand, if you will. Career fair don'ts, things that you absolutely make sure that you don't do while you're at the career fair. Your career fair action plan, things that you can put together to begin to prepare yourself for the career fair. And then if time permits, I may ask someone to share their elevator speech or their elevator pitch if they have one to share. And as we go along, if you have questions, feel free to put those questions in the chat, and Lisa will help us field any questions. So I'll be glad to do that for you as we go. So career fairs, what are they and why do they exist? The primary purpose of career fairs is really for corporations, for government entities, and for universities to recruit talent for either employment or for academic programs. And so I understand that we may have some pre-college students along with collegiates. And so your approach to the career fair may be slightly different based on your age and where you are in school. But all the information I'm going to share with you today really works for both sets of those groups. And so when you think about what career fairs are and what they do, for the companies and for the government agencies and for the universities, it's about recruitment. It's about, for our college students, it's about looking for permanent or full-time employment once you graduate. Also looking for internships. So internships are often summer jobs. They often occur during the summer. And these are jobs that companies or organizations will employ you to give you hands-on experience in a particular field. And those internships help you figure out, is this what I really want to do? I've actually seen at an AISES conference, this was years ago, I've actually seen high school students, high school seniors actually go to career fairs and actually get summer internships before they start their freshman year of college. So it's even possible for high school students if you approach it the right way. They're also looking to provide co-op opportunities. So for some students, they rather do their summer internship or do their work experience during the summer. For others, they kind of take a little bit longer to graduate and they engage in co-ops where you go to school for a term, for a semester, or for a quarter, and then you intern or you work for a semester or a quarter, and you kind of go back and forth. And it gives you, by the time you graduate, you typically have about a year to a year and a half's worth of work experience that you take with you. And then for our high school students, it creates an opportunity for universities and companies, but mainly for universities to recruit you as a freshman into their academic programs. In this case, potentially STEM programs or other programs as well. And also they give you access to some of their summer enrichment programs. There are several universities that will offer programs for high school juniors and seniors in the summer to help prepare them for the college experience and to give them some STEM experience in particular when it comes to deciding what you want to do with your bachelor's degree. And so that's really what is in it for the companies, again, and the agencies and universities. What's in it for you? It's an opportunity for you to learn more about that company or that school to decide, is it a fit? So you're asking specific questions, you're learning about the programs that they offer, and it gives you a chance to learn about what they have to offer you. And it gives them a chance to learn more about you to see if you're fit for that company, right? The connection that you make with those potential employers and those universities should help you figure out if that organization is truly a fit for you. And so that's why career fairs exist. This year, you all will have the opportunity at AISES, if you attend the conference in Phoenix in person, you'll have a chance to participate in an in-person career fair, right? So a lot of the information I'm going to share is pertinent to an in-person experience, but there are going to be some things that you still want to know if you participate in the virtual career fair that you will also have an opportunity to participate in. I believe October 15th, for those that are registered, you'll have an opportunity to participate in a virtual career fair. So you want to keep these things in mind, whether you're going to be attending in person or whether you're going to be attending virtually for that fair. First impressions. What are first impressions and where are they made? I want to read something to you. So I looked this up, and there are several definitions of first impressions, but the one that really stood out that you want to think about, and this is based on information from the American Psychological Association. It says a first impression is one's initial perception of another person, typically involving a positive or negative evaluation, as well as a sense of physical and psychological characteristics. Such impressions are based on the earliest information about a person that is received about a person, often through direct encounters. So first impressions are typically based on this the first time that someone engages with you, and that could be through a conversation, that could be through eyesight, that could be through shared space, and they hear something that you said. All of those things encompass a first impression that one will make about you. And so where are first impressions often made? For you all as students, you'll find that first impressions are often made at school. They're made from a conference participation perspective. They're made in hotels and convention center lobbies and corridors and suites. They're made at airports. If you're flying into the conference, I tell students all the time, it's interesting when you fly into a conference and you're in the airport and you're excited to be in the conference city and you're at the baggage claim and you're collecting your bags, a whole lot of other people that are attending the conference may be there as well. And so you'll be surprised. Representatives of universities and of companies, they're paying attention in every situation that they're in, and you should be paying attention as well, because they may be listening or watching what you do, and then you walk to a booth at the career fair and you realize, hey, I saw that person at the airport, right? So all of those things factor in. Elevators, and I know that's a weird thing. Why would he say, of all the places you can meet somebody and make a first impression, why would he say elevators? Well, I'm going to connect the dots on the elevators a little bit later in the presentation, but at a conference, you're often walking through corridors, and in hotels and other buildings, you may get on the elevator to go to your hotel room. And while you're on the elevator, there's a university rep or there's a corporate rep, right? That's on the elevator. So I'll talk about that. Of course, at career fairs. And then even in virtual events, many of you all through the last year have been a part of virtual teaching, maybe other virtual conferences or meetings. And so how you present yourself in the virtual environment is also a first impression. What people see, what they hear, and sometimes what they don't hear. Because again, if we're visual, it's about what they don't hear. And I say video and backgrounds because what's in your background is important. All of that represents you. So when you're thinking about virtual career fairs and meetings, when you're selecting your background, think about what do I want others to see behind me that also represents who I am and what I do. And so anytime you're in the public or virtual eye, there's an opportunity for you to manage your first impression. So let's talk about virtual impressions and brand. So first impressions represent your brand, right? Who you are. And so I have on the screen some examples that many of you all probably have seen before. In many of these cases, an organization manages their first impression with you through brand logos, right? So these logos often elicit a physical, a psychological, or an emotional response simply when you see it, right? And so so many of you have had experiences with some of these logos. So I'll start with the first two, and I welcome you all, if you know what some of the others represent, to put that in the chat. It's Coca-Cola, self-explanatory. Many of us have seen Coca-Cola products. FedEx at one time was the premier shipping company. And so just simply seeing the FedEx logo meant I know my package is going to get there on time. There's some others here as well that you all may recognize. Let's look at the bottom corner under the 10, the swoosh. Most people know what that brand that represents, right? Nike. Then you have Apple Computer. You have Disney, Walt Disney World, and the Disney franchise. Pepsi Cola. I'm going to do McDonald's last because I have a story with McDonald's. Some of you may be too young, or you maybe not, because there's some fashionistas and folks who know fashion that may know Chanel, may recognize Chanel. Our coffee drinkers probably recognize Starbucks, right? And then there's Mercedes-Benz at the bottom. So these are kind of iconic brands that just by sight, you create a vision and there's a feeling that comes to you around what those icons mean, right? McDonald's, most all of us have heard of and know McDonald's. So I have a story. I always tell folks, it's so funny that there used to be a time, and today it's a little different, but there used to be a time where the one thing people talk about are McDonald's fries. So not only do you see the logo, I remember being young and being in the car with my parents and driving down the street. And I'm telling you, you could see that McDonald's logo like 5 blocks away and you're getting excited because you're like, I want to stop at McDonald's. I want some McDonald's, right? But the other thing that often connects what you visually see are other sensory attachments to a logo. So when I was young, McDonald's fries were one of my favorite things. And not just seeing the emblem on the sign a few blocks away, but you could actually smell their French fries like blocks before you ever got to the restaurant. And that sensory smell of those fries made you want McDonald's, made you want to make sure you were there. You wanted the Big Mac and the shake and all the things that go with it. So those sensory things are part of the brand that draws individuals to stop at McDonald's. And so I'm using these brand logos as an initial example, and now I'm going to tie it to you. For you, you represent your logo. You represent your brand. And so your brand and everything about you that creates your brand is part of creating your first impression with university reps and with corporate reps when you're at the career fair. So I want you to keep that in mind. This conversation is about first impressions, but about what represents you in the best light. So let's talk about, you must always manage your brand, right? And so what does that mean, managing your brand? It's about the first impression. It's about different things that represent you when you're at the career fair that represent your brand. And these are things that you want to think about because these are the things that are uniquely you, and they help you stand out from the rest of the others that are also looking for jobs or internships or academic programs at the fair. So things that you want to keep in mind as you think about your first impression. Your attire. What you wear at the fair is very important. Whether you're in person or whether you're virtual, you want to take a cue from others around you. And I often tell students where it's their first time attending a career fair, talk to your teachers, talk to AISES reps, talk to your chapter advisor, ask them, what should I expect when it comes to the career fair? And I believe on the AISES site, they may even talk a little bit about ways you can prepare for the career fair as well. So you want to make sure you're dressed appropriately. Grooming, how you're groomed is very important. You want to give your best first impression, your best self. A good, solid, strong handshake is very important, especially for in-person. Young ladies, a lot of times, I remember when I was younger, it was men give strong handshakes, women don't. I've met women that give an absolutely strong handshake. So even as a woman, You want to give a stern handshake to say, I'm here, I'm present, I'm listening, and I'm engaged. Your posture. When you're in the career fair, you want to stand tall, you want to have your chin up, you want to have your shoulders back. You want to live in your confidence because this is who you are. You're representing yourself. So you want to make sure you have good posture. You don't want to slouch. You don't want to lean on stuff. You want to stand tall so that they recognize you. Your nonverbal communication and eye contact are very important first impressions as well. Again, people often engage first by what they see, what they smell, by the other senses versus through communication. So you want to make sure that when people look at you, they see you, they know that you're about business, that you're there to get that job and engage in that experience. Your verbal communication is very important as well as part of your first impression. So you want to speak well, try not to use a lot of slang if you don't have to. Definitely you don't want to use profanity and things like that. And not just when you're engaging with reps, but often when you're in the fair, it's easy to get comfortable because you're walking around with friends and you're walking around with folks that you're comfortable with. And so you all may be having ancillary or personal conversations. And even if it's about the fair, you may be having conversations that aren't directly with a rep, but the reps may be able to hear your conversation. So you want to be thinking about that when you're in the fair. Same thing when you're on the virtual fairs as well. You want to make sure that you're presenting yourself in all these ways, but you're also speaking well. Ultimately, part of your brand, although it's not something that people necessarily see physically from you originally, is your integrity and your character. And these are part of who you are. What's important to you? What do you value? And how do you translate what you value into these other things that I've talked about? And then finally, again, I talk about virtual backgrounds. When you're on a virtual fair, you want to make sure that whatever you choose for your background fits with the environment. So you don't want anything too busy. You don't necessarily want anything too colorful. You want something that's professional. I often tell students in these cases, almost, it doesn't have to be plain. So it doesn't have to be like a plain white background or other background, but it should be something that has very little distractions, right? So that the reps can focus on you and not what's in the background. So you want to make sure that all of those things are in place. And these are some of those important things that actually represent your brand, which then represents your first impression. So as you prepare to attend the AISES Career Fair, again, whether it's in person or whether it's virtual, there are some things that you want to be mindful that you don't do. So these are the no-nos when you're participating in the fair. You don't want to be too passive, right? Because when you're passive, you may get overlooked. So what does that mean? That means when you're in the fair, you want to wait patiently in line. If you're at a booth and you want to talk to a representative, you want to be patient, but you also want to smile. You may be talking to some other friends in line, and those things are okay. But when you finally get up to speak to that rep, you want to be assertive. You want to give a firm handshake, introduce yourself, make sure they know who you are so that you're not overlooked. What about you is going to stand out that gets you remembered among all the people that they're going to see that day, right? You don't want to chew gum. You don't want to eat. You don't want to drink. And I know that sounds maybe like common sense, but I've been to fairs and I've seen students, I've even seen adults, frankly, walking through with drinks in their hands. They're at a booth, they're chewing gum while they're trying to talk. Those things are a no-no. So you want to make sure you get your good meal, you get your water, you get all those things before you get in. And if you need to do that, there's an area in the career fair often where you can go sit and you can have something to eat if you need to, you can drink something. But when you're at the booth, you want to be focused on what you're doing. You don't want to loiter in front of a booth unless you're seeking information. Keep it moving. So when you're there at the booth, they'll have some trinkets. Often many of the booths will have multiple people, so you have a chance to kind of wait in line and someone will call on you next because there are multiple people that are there to talk to you about your interests. But if you're there and you're not planning on talking to that company, keep it moving because there are other students that are there that are definitely interested in looking for a job. And so you want to make sure they have the full opportunity that they need if you're really not interested in that organization. Don't interrupt a corporate representative when he or she is speaking to someone else. Wait patiently. I've seen students that get excited and because they know a person or because they're friends with a student, they walk up and they speak to the student or to the person that's trying to engage, or they interrupt and say, "Hey, I met you at the airport." And it's like, okay, I was talking to someone else. And so you want to make sure that, again, that you wait patiently because your time will come and that you don't interrupt representatives while they're speaking to other folks. Don't talk loud or yell, right? The career fair is going to be an exciting place. There's going to be a lot of bells and whistles, a lot of lights, in some cases, a lot of sounds. Some of the companies are going to have demonstrations. They're going to have robots. They're going to have all kinds of exciting stuff for you. They're going to have trinkets. And so you're going to walk around and you're going to be excited. Remember that it's a lot of folks in the room. So it may even be a little loud in some cases. And so you may, by instinct, think while you're talking to your friends that you talk loud. Again, remember where you are and keep your conversations appropriate. And definitely, you don't want to yell across the fair. Seen that too. You see a friend you haven't seen in a while, they're like 2 booths down, you go, hey, Bob. And it's like, okay, wait a minute. So you don't want to do that either. So keep those things in mind. And when it comes to giveaways, don't take more than one type of giveaway unless offered to you. The fair is not a shopping spree. Now, there's going to be a point in time when they will be trying to get rid of stuff, right? So typically on the last day or within the last couple of hours of the fair, these companies have things that they want to share with you to engage and leave a memory with you about the organization. And so they absolutely want you to have them. And they don't want to take these things back. So closer to the end of the fair, you'll have an opportunity to really kind of walk around and engage and take trinkets. But while you're engaging in your pursuits of information about those organizations, take one item that they may have for you. If they offer you other items, by all means, be willing to accept if you choose, but this is not a shopping spree. Okay? Now, when you're in the fair, it's about your action plan. How do you prepare yourself for the fair to give your best first impression? You want to come with your A game. A game is important. And when I say A game, I mean you want to bring your absolute best, and that takes preparation, right? You can't, it's like studying for the ACT, SAT, it's like studying for the GMAT, it's like studying for an exam. You can't just gloss over it and hope it sticks and then go take the test, right? You got to spend the time to prepare yourself so that you're giving the best impression to those representatives that are participating in the fair with you. So what does that mean as far as preparing for the fair? It takes preparation and it takes practice. Part of your preparation is going to be preparing a resume. Definitely want to have a paper resume and even a mental resume. And in the days of digital exchange of information, many of you may have like a LinkedIn profile on your resume, for example. I've seen students that have paper resumes, but also have digital resumes. So they have a version of their resume. I've seen students, including high school students, surprisingly enough, who have business cards, right? That say, this is my major, this is what school I'm at, these are my interests. And on the back, I've seen them do things like put a QR code, right? Either a short link or a QR code where a company can then go and they can look at their resume in a digital version, or they can go to their LinkedIn page to find out more information about you. While I'm bringing that up, I'll take a quick pause and talk about LinkedIn. Your LinkedIn profile and anything on social media is also a representation of you by first impression. So be mindful that when companies and universities are looking at you and you're looking at them, just like you may go out and look at their website in advance, if they have information about you, they're going to go look at that information. So you want to make sure that everything that represents you on those platforms is a true representation of you that you want them to see. And so I often tell students, focus on a professional. You may have a social profile that's more fun with your friends. I also tell them, when you're looking for a job or you're looking for certain opportunities, have a professional profile as well. So that's crystal clear, and don't necessarily connect those because you want folks to focus on your professionalism and your profile and what it is that you want to do as it pertains to what they're looking for. So keep that in mind as well. You want to research the companies or the universities that will be exhibiting at the fair in advance. I know in some cases you'll know, I think AISES may have a list of the companies, or when you get to the conference, you'll be able to see the program book and it'll have a list of the companies. And so prior to the day of the fair, while you're in your hotel room, while you're in the convention center, relaxing, take some time to research those companies and those universities in advance. Know who's going to be at the fair, because number one, that helps you figure out who you want to see and who you don't want to see. And it gives you more information so you have the right questions prepared to ask. If there's something about that company or that university that you're not finding on their website, it gives you a chance to ask that question to the rep while you're at the fair. You also want to know what you're interested in and what you're looking for. And you may not know that today, but I want you to spend some time thinking about what is it that I want to do. If I'm a college student, am I looking for an internship? Am I looking for a co-op? Am I looking for a permanent employment? If I'm a high school student, am I looking for an internship, general information about an academic program, financial aid information, scholarships? So you want to have a short list of what are the things that I'm interested in and what am I looking for? Because I guarantee you, whether it's virtual or whether it's in person, when you step to that booth, they're going to have questions for you. So you're going to get a chance to sell yourself, but they may have some questions about what your interests are. You know, tell me why you're interested in this organization. Tell me why you're interested in our company. Tell me why you're interested in this university, in this program. And you want to make sure you're able to articulate why you have that interest. You also want to make a short list of those companies or universities that you would like to target. And that's important. So first of all, you want to make sure you research the companies in advance, and then you want to make a short list of those companies that you make sure you see. At many of these career fairs, especially if it's your first major career fair at a conference like AISES, it's going to be a lot of companies, a lot of schools, and a lot of people. And so when you start to walk around and you see that one company, you get excited and you think about it, well, there's 200 more folks that are excited as well. So when I step up to the booth, it's not just me. They're not just waiting on me, but there are other folks that are there as well that want to engage. And so how do I make sure in a finite period of time from the start to the finish of that fair that I make sure that I at least see these top tier universities or companies that I know that I have an interest in? A lot of times you go in and it's like going to a buffet. You see everything looks good. And then you realize there's no way I'm going to be able to talk to 200 companies and universities in the next 5 hours. So how do I figure out who to target and who I definitely want to talk to? Because that's where my primary interest is. You want to make that short list in advance. And I believe, Lisa, I believe in the past, even in the program book, there's like a map of the floor. So you kind of can see in advance where the company is on the floor, where the school is on the floor. So I even tell students, if you have the time, even plot like your path through the fair, right? You know when you walk in, who you're going to see first. And sometimes I tell students, the way the fairs typically work, those who really support and sponsor organizations in a really major way are typically up front. That doesn't mean the folks in the back are not as important. It just means that the bigger companies tend to be up front. Well, one strategy you may take is when we walk in, if I see Intel, if I see, General Motors, if I see Apple, that booth is probably going to be very crowded. It's at the front and people are going to see it first. But there's a company on my target list or a school on my target list that is 3 rows over and 5 rows back. I'm going to go to the back first because most people that come in, they work their way from the front to the back. But I'm going to start at the back because I'm going to get first dibs at some of my top target companies or schools and get to talk to them first. So that's one strategy that you might use when you go into the career fair. But you want to be prepared to bring your A game. The other thing that I'll add, this is one of my Dr. Mike-isms, so this is a freebie, as I normally tell students. It has nothing to do with the fair. When I often talk about bringing your A game, I often talk about grades, right? And so for our college students that are on, you probably know this experience well. For some of the high school students, you may know this as well, but as some of the high school students transition to college, I tell them, you want to come into your academic program prepared to bring your academic A game as well. You only get one chance to make a first impression. You only get one chance to get a 4.0. 4.0 is all A's. Once you get that first B, the 4.0 is gone forever. You can have all A's and a B, and you'll have a 3.999988899, but never a 4.0, right? And so you want to strive for that 4.0. Grades, when they go up, it's like climbing a mountain. So if you start at the top and you stay at the top, you're in good shape. When they start to drop, you got to climb again. And so what you'll find is that once you get that first B or that first C, to get those grades back up, it's a climb. It takes you 1 or 2 or 3 turns to get back to where you were. But when they drop, it's like jumping off a cliff, right? So they drop quickly and it takes time for you to rebuild to climb. So you want to be at the top of your game academically as well to make sure that you stand out amongst the crowd. Now, as part of your action plan, so there's the formal resume. We talked about the digital resume and some of the things that you want to have. One of the other things that I encourage students to do is prepare an elevator pitch or an elevator speech. And what is that? An elevator pitch or an elevator speech is a 60 to 90-second speech that you can give at any moment to sell yourself. That elevator speech can happen anywhere during your experience, in the airport, in the convention center, in the hotel, in a workshop room, right? Even on your campus, it can happen anywhere. And so I tell students, imagine you're at the convention, right? And you're stepping into the Renaissance Hotel, and say the Renaissance says, hey, 40 floors. I'm just gonna say it has 40 floors. And so you get on the elevator, and you notice once you get on the elevator that someone else either steps into the elevator with you, or they're already on the elevator, and either maybe they have a lapel pin for a company or for a university that you recognize, or maybe they just have a name badge that has their name and their title that says, I'm CEO, I'm the Dean of Engineering, here's my title and here's my organization. Or maybe it's somebody, frankly, that you recognize as being the CEO or the dean. And so you get excited because this person represents an organization that you're interested in either working for or a school that you may be interested in going to. And this person is going to the top floor. And so even though you're going to a different floor, they say hello to you and you go, I have 60 to 90 seconds from the lobby to the 40th floor to create a first impression and sell myself to this person who may be interested in hiring me or allow me entry into their program. So that's the mental motivation that I want you to have when you think about elevator speech. And so if you had to sell yourself in 60 to 90 seconds, what would you say? What could you squeeze into that short amount of time so that by the time that person got off the elevator, they're asking you for a business card. They're going, I need your email address. I'm really interested in you. Here's my card. Make sure you reach back out to me. How do you prepare yourself for that experience? It's an elevator speech. Your elevator speech should be concise, but detailed. I know that sounds like an oxymoron. So you want to put the right details in it, but you don't want it to be too long because again, you only have 60 to 90 seconds. You don't want to necessarily have to rush through it. The other piece I tell students, even in preparing a verbal speech, when you're at the conference, attend from the perspective that every interaction is an opportunity for growth and for me to sell myself. So just like you're going to have your resume with you when you walk into the fair, with your conference bag, your resume should be with you at all times. Because you never know when you need to pull it out, even in the elevator, and share it with someone, right? Connect in some way to the person that you're engaging with. Ask them who they are. Ask them about why they chose to do what they're doing. Ask them, are they enjoying the conference? But you want to make a connection with that person. You want to be able to talk about why you're interested in becoming an engineer or a scientist or interested in whatever particular field or company or university that you're interacting with. Once you see them and you got excited, it was something about that company that you said, I want to be a part of that organization, a part of that university program. So you need to be able to articulate why you have that interest. Some other things that you may, and I put these in italics, so these are things that you may choose to share. So the top three things are really the core focus. Connect in some way with the person. It may have nothing to do with being an engineer or scientist, but how do you physically in that space connect? And then be willing to share why you're interested. But you also may be able to share, of course, who you are, your name, your grade, your school, the city you're from, your desired major in college, or your current major in college. Academic or technical experiences that are relevant. If you meet someone and you've done an internship in a certain area, you may share, I've actually done an internship with your company. It was really great. Or I've done an internship in this area and I've always wanted to get an experience with your organization. Those are things you want to be able to share. And then colleges that you're interested in attending, specifically for our pre-college students. Where is it that you want to go? And even for collegians that are looking for graduate opportunities, right? Graduate school and other things, you want to be able to say, here's where I want to go and here's why. And so these are some of the things that you want to be able to quickly put into an elevator speech. And so as part of, it's going to be homework. And again, if we have time, I may ask if there's anyone on who's willing to share, be willing to be bold and maybe do an impromptu speech. But these are some things I want you to think about. And if you want to take a screenshot or anything, that's fine. Again, you can go back and look at the recording. Is take these things in mind and prep your elevator speech before you get to the conference, and actually take some time to practice it with some folks you trust who will give you really good feedback, so that you're prepared in a moment's notice to share your best first impression and about who you are and what your interests are. Now, you've gotten to the fair, whether it's virtual or in person, or you met a person in the elevator, and now you've gotten your speech out, you have some extra time, and maybe there's some questions that you're thinking, what should I be asking at the fair? What are the things that are important for me to learn and know for me to make a decision about what my interests are? So these are some questions that you might ask as part of your fair experience. What majors what majors do you employ or hire? So when you're talking about internships and co-ops, you want to ask, and some of them will have it posted on their booth. They'll have information in the program book, but you may ask, do you actually employ these types of majors? Does your company offer internships and co-ops? So, at the end of the day, you want to ask some key questions that tie directly to your interests up front, because that may help you decide how much time you spend at that particular booth, right? Whether it's in person or virtual. Does your company or your academic institution offer scholarships? Some of them offer scholarships that come with internships. Some offer scholarship or have other academic programs to support students, whether you actually intern or co-op or work for that company or not. You might ask, what does a chemical engineer do at your company? If I were to intern or co-op or take a full-time position, what are some of the types of projects or work that I might do as a member of your organization? What advice would you give a student that wanted to work for your company? If I wanted to hire on as an intern, if I wanted to hire on as a co-op or full-time employee, if I wanted to join the chemical engineering department at your university, what are some of the important things that I should do or know to be successful in engaging? That's a question that you might ask. Helps you learn more about the company. It helps them know where your head is about interest. And it really helps you also create a personal relationship with the rep from that organization that keeps you memorable. So you want to think about that. What courses are required to enter your program, right? So for whether it's graduate programs, whether it's even employment opportunities, there's certain courses or certifications or things that they want you to have or know. If you're a high school student that's looking for schools to start your bachelor's program, you may want to know, is there any kind of courses in high school that I need to make sure that I have to be successful in entering into your program? And so this is a small sampling of questions that you may ask, but there are many more. So again, I encourage you to talk to your chapter advisor, talk to some of your teachers, some of your professors. Counseling center, career centers on your campuses often can give you some of this advice as well. So make sure that you're asking the right questions with regard to employment opportunities, academic opportunities, scholarship opportunities, and things of that nature. Very important. And so I went through that fairly quickly. I did good. So the next thing is the elevator pitch. And I know that I put let's practice, also put homework. So I don't know if there's anyone on the call that has a resume or has an idea. Maybe this isn't your first AISES or other career fair, and you want to take the opportunity to maybe practice your elevator pitch with me and Lisa. But when you're preparing it, tell students in an in-person workshop, say take 5 minutes to prepare a quick resume if you don't already have it, of your accomplishments. Write down the things that are important about your academic accomplishments, maybe even your extracurricular accomplishments, what your interests are, what you want to major in, why, what type of work you may want to do and why, what type of company you may want to work for and why, and then use that information to create an elevator speech such that, again, if you were in a situation at a fair, in person or virtual, to quickly share information about who you are. And frankly, when you step up to a career fair booth, essentially what you're giving them during that interaction is also your elevator speech. Because think about it, you're at a fair, companies are there to see as many potential employees, students, scholars as they can see. So you're only going to have a short amount of time with a particular rep. So you want to be able to share your experience and what your interests are as quickly as possible, because you want to make sure they get everything they need so that you rise to the top before they go on to the next potential candidate. And so your presentation at the fair, in fact, is also your elevator speech. And so with that, I'll ask, and I don't know if we had any other questions that came through, but I'll ask if there's anyone that's interested, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. I don't want you to think, part of this is a learning experience for you to gain some insight, to gain some advice potentially on ways that you may share or beef that up. So if there's anyone that's willing to do a quick elevator speech, you can raise your hand, or you can say, raise your hand in the chat, raise your hand to participants, but I welcome someone to be bold and brave and maybe share some of your interests with us. I've been doing a lot of talking, so this is my chance to rest my voice for a second or two.
And I'm going to change the settings to where you can unmute yourself. So if you get brave, go ahead and do it.
Yes. And we want to see you too, because it's important. Remember, when you go to the fair and you're they're going to see you. And so even if it's not perfect, here's a chance to get some practice. And what I may do this in two pieces. One is that if there's someone who's willing to share kind of their virtual resume, what they're maybe where you are, give me who you are, what school you're at, what grade level, what your interests are from a STEM perspective. And if there's a couple of organizations that maybe you're thinking about that are of interest to you at the career fair. And I've taught in the classroom too, so I'm not scared to call people out and say, hey, how about you? So anyone. I see Emerald's face. She's one of the few that actually has her face up. So I'll ask Emerald.
So technically, Emerald is our director of outreach. She's watching to pull some quotes for social media and.
Gotcha. Well, hi, Emerald.
So I'll give her a pass on this one because she can't look for a new job right now.
Yes. Anyone else that wants to share some information? Here's your one good free chance to get some good solid advice on an elevator speech or on things that you want to share at the fair. Or if there are any questions, I'll say that as well. If there are any questions that came up based on my presentation that you have about how best to engage, who to engage with, are there any tips that you should have if this is your first fair? Any questions you have about the conference experience and specifically about the career fair, and any questions you may have specifically about engagement in a virtual space as well. More than welcome to answer any of those questions also.
I have a question, if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a question too that came in. So let me share that one first. What if you aren't good with small talk? Do you have advice for?
Yeah. Well, one thing I tell folks all the time is that if you're not good at small talk, preparing your mental or your written resume and preparing your elevator speech and writing will help you. The one thing I tell students, and this is kind of a general comment, I speak a lot and I've spoken a lot in my lifetime, right? But when I was in high school, I remember being in high school and being young, and I was always nervous about speaking. And I tell people all the time that most good speakers actually do have a bit of anxiety when they speak, no matter how well you speak or how often you speak. Every time you prepare to get in front of an audience and share things about yourself, there's a bit of anxiety because it's a part of you that you're sharing and you're excited. But the easiest thing to share is information about you because it's you. You know you better than anybody else, right? And so when you know you, it's typically easier to have conversations with others about who you are. And I always say, look for a commonality that you have with someone that you're engaging with to create that sense of connection that also makes it easier for you to open up. And the other thing is, remember, small talk is just that. You don't have to give your life story. You don't have to commit to 30 minutes of having to share information. We're talking about a very short amount of time that you're sharing information about yourself. And when you think about you're competing at the career fair with all these other individuals that are also looking for employment, again, for scholarship, for academic opportunity. And so you have to be willing to share some information about who you are to stand out. And just think, just as quickly as it starts, when you're talking about yourself, often you look up and you go, wait a minute, I've been talking for 2 minutes. I can't believe I talked that long about stuff I'm interested in. You'll be surprised at what you're willing and able to share. But often if you write it down and you do some practice in advance, it'll make small talk a whole lot easier. If you're doing it off the cuff, it absolutely can be terrifying and it can be nerve-wracking. But if you prepare and know that the potential for you to do that is coming, it typically makes it easier for you to engage.
Thank
I see
you.
one more question.
Oop.
I'm sorry. How to present self in case of having 10 plus years of prior work experience and now going to the university. So it's kind of the opposite of what I just said. If you're new to it, there's nerves, but someone who has 10 years plus experience, the advantage you have is that experience. And so being able to talk about you and your experience, even if you're trying to, for example, go back to school, is very important because every experience that you have in life creates an impact on the next step in your life. And so even if it's a work experience, even if it's extracurricular, everything that you experience in life impacts the next step. And so I would say pull out the positives and pull out 2 or 3 bullets from those work experiences that you've had that you can highlight in that elevator speech that are accomplishments that you made, contributions that you made in those situations that sell who you are. And so a lot of I would call them non-traditional students go in and say, oh, it's been a long time since I've been out of school and I'm nervous and I don't really know what to share. Share you, because your experiences still inform why you want to go back to school. And to be quite frank, in many cases, for non-traditional students specifically, you're more disciplined because of those experiences in life when it comes to going back to schools, and university programs and even employers, they recognize that because of your experience. You're typically more disciplined and more responsible because you've had those experiences to inform you in those situations. Yeah. Any other questions?
My question is kind of the opposite of both those. And how long is too long? Like, what's a good cutoff time so that we're respectful and polite so that other people have a chance to talk to the representatives?
That's a very good question. I tell students, so think about the elevator pitch being 60 to 90 seconds. When you're at a booth, you're probably, in many cases, you may have, because they're going to engage you too. So you're probably going to have about, I would say 5 to 7 minutes. Err on the side of 5, and if it stretches, it's stretching because they're really interested in you. So you want to be able to sell yourself quickly, share that resume, talk about the important facets of your resume, get in 1 or 2 questions, and then if they're also going to engage you and ask you questions as well. But I would typically target 5 to 7 minutes. Larger companies that know that they're going to have a lot of interest typically bring a lot more representatives so they can spread more people across the broader audience of folks that are participating in the fair. But you want to think about, 5 to 7 minutes because, often less is more. In those situations, we tend to think, well, the more I talk and the more I share, the more excited about this they're going to be. But remember, they have your resume and writing. So you're going to share the highlights. You're going to share the high points because everything else they can get from your resume, right? Or from your LinkedIn profile or those things. So don't feel like you have to share every single thing that's on your resume. Pull out those highlights into the elevator speech and know that you can make a positive impact within 5 to 7 minutes. Absolutely. Any other questions? Okay. Well, what I would encourage you all to do is, again, on your own, complete the exercise, and again, ask a teacher, a parent, a chapter advisor to help give you feedback and practice. You can't just write your resume. You can't just write the elevator pitch and never practice it. You have to be willing to practice it. And I would even encourage you and practice it with a group of people, because often in career fair situations, not always in virtual, I know I've seen group engagements even in virtual. I've also seen one-on-one. But although you're in kind of personal space and you're having a conversation with a rep, because there's so much going around you, you can hear other folks' conversations. And often, I remember when I was young, I would go with friends to the career fair, and if I was shy about a particular thing, I would push one of them kind of up first. Let me see them do this, right? So I can see how it works, and then I pick up tips from how they engage. And so people are listening to you as well. So you want to get used to being able to share information about yourself in a group setting. Even though it's going to be a one-on-one conversation, others in line are typically watching, they're listening, they're taking notes. Oh yeah, I should mention that too, right? And so practice. You have to write it and you have to practice it. Practice it with people you trust. And the more you practice it, the better you get. The more times you do it, the better you're going to get. And so I encourage you to take this as homework. I think you'll be surprised how good you get, and you'll also be surprised how much you learn about yourself. A lot of times we're not used to, people in general are often not used to talking about themselves. And I will say what I've learned through my engagement with AISES and just through friends and community, that especially in the Indigenous and the Native community, there's a reverence to our elders and things like that. And often we're not used to feeling comfortable saying, this is who I am, here's what my interests are, and here's why I want to do what I want to do. And so I think it's important that, given the opportunity, know that you're in an environment where you're already great, right? You're part of a great organization. You're there to learn, you're there to gain, and they're there because they want to engage and learn about you. They want to hire you. They want to invite you into their academic programs. And so they're there for a purpose, you're there for a purpose. And so when you know that you're shy or that there's information that you're not quite sure, again, practicing will allow you to present that in front of folks that can give you the right advice and the right feedback, so that when you go into those fairs, you're going confident, you're going ready for those jobs and those opportunities to land on your plate. And you learn in the process as well. So again, practice makes perfect. It may not always be perfect the first time, but that's okay. When you jump out there and you start doing it, you're going to get better as you go. And I hope that one thing I didn't put on, and I'll add it to the chat, if anybody wants to reach out to me and has questions after, you can reach out through Lisa and through AISES, but you can also reach out to me directly if you have any questions. And I'm a common name, so sometimes I can be hard to find. It depends on, but if you look up Michael D. Smith, I think it has Dr. Michael D. Smith on LinkedIn, you can find my LinkedIn profile. We have a few minutes, so I may see if I can pull it up and copy that into the link. And what I'll do is share it. Okay, now how do I, there we go. Let me see if I can find my LinkedIn, and I'll share with you all my LinkedIn profile. And if you have questions, by all means, know that you can reach out anytime. I'm happy to assist and answer questions, because I want you to represent your best self as well. And I know sometimes we think we know, but there's that one question that you didn't think of while you were on the workshop, and you go, oh, okay, wait a minute. I have a question now. How do I get to them? And so I want you to be able to do that.
And while you're looking that up, I'll let everybody know that, like Dr. Mike said, we do have all of the exhibitors and partners listed on our website. And not only do we have the map, but now we've got a feature where you can filter and search. So for example, if you're looking for only an internship and you just want to see, show me the places that are advertising internships right now, you click that and it'll filter those ones. Maybe you're though looking for a place that hires civil engineers. So you can filter that way. So there's a couple different ways to filter in. We even have a way that you can do it if you're a Canadian student and you want to see who's offering Canadian opportunities, things like that. So on our conference.aises.org/exhibitors, you can go there and you can really play around with it, see who's going to be in person, who's going to be on the virtual one. So it's a really nice feature to be able to do your research ahead of time.
That's right. That's right. Definitely do your research. That's another thing. Along with the elevator pitch and the resume, do your early research. You want to know who's there. You want to plot a plan, because the career fair is going on, but there's also workshops and other things. And there may be a workshop that you really want to see that's going on as part of the fair, so that shortens your time. So you want to really strategize about who I want to see, what specific questions do I have for those individuals, so that I get all my targets in, I get all my questions answered in the amount of time that I have to engage in the fair. And so I absolutely wish you all the best of luck with the fair. And if I'm correct, you have an opportunity to do both. So you can, if you're in person, you can do the physical fair, but then you also can attend the virtual fair. And so use both of those opportunities to engage with those organizations that are going to be at the fair. And I wish you all absolutely the best of luck in searching for that job or that program of your choice. And thank you, Lisa and AISES, for the opportunity, again, to be able to share some of this information with some of the members of AISES. I'm excited. I always love doing this, so thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mike. This is so great to have it ahead of the conference so students can get really prepared and feel really ready. And these were just such great tips, a plethora of them, you all. Like, seriously, I hope you were taking notes or go back and watch the video. We'll have it online soon because these were really great suggestions and we really appreciate your time. And yeah, we look forward to seeing all these students in person and on the virtual fair. So thank you all so much and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Too. Bye.